Oh, that's ominous.
Mhm.
It's even that new sweet voice that's like, it's not Big Brother, it's like your aunt or something. This meeting is being recorded. Just to make us feel better about it. Okay, now we should be being recorded. Okay, I've got these two shapes that we got from the form-based code last time. We've got this accessory structure in the back, we've got the main structure in the front, and we've got its little setback requirement right there. I'm going to turn these into components, so I'm triple clicking on this one and hitting the letter G to make it a component. And I'm triple clicking on this front one. That selects everything when you triple click. And then I'm going to hit G to make it into a component. And now they won't stick together. So you're always making components in SketchUp. That's your MO. Okay, so now we need to get a street coming in from the sidewalk. I'm going to start, I'll just start lined up from here at the corner, and then we'll scoot it over. I know I want my street to come all the way over here. There are gonna be some tricky things. We may not spend a ton of details getting this parking lot figured out, but I'm just gonna come back in here somewhere, and I'm not gonna pull up the form-based code again, but I'm pretty sure that they wanted streets to be 12 feet wide, entry driveways for multifamily, for small multifamily projects. So as soon as this is finished thinking, we'll make a street that's 12 feet wide. Okay, so 12 feet. And then bring it back out to the front where it lines up, bring it across. Okay, so we've got a driveway coming in. Now that I think about it, I don't want it to go back nearly as far, so I'm just gonna bring it up here. And I'm not, you'll see, you can line things up. You're probably starting to get the feel for this. I'm not clicking, I'm just, as I bring it down, I'm letting it touch that corner and then scooting it back so it stays lined up with the edge. Now we've got our street going in. The second thing that we're gonna need is, we're gonna need a parking space, and we're gonna need backup space. So we know that we need 24 feet. So I'm gonna make this little piece of street into a component as well, just to keep it from sticking to other stuff.
How big was it supposed to be?
Make it 12 feet wide, and then I'm just eyeballing how deep it is. I'm just starting at the edge of the street and going to the front of the building right here. Okay, we've got that. Now I need 24 feet of backup space, so I'm gonna start right there in this corner of the lot, because parking lot is not a part of setback some of the time. In this particular instance, it's not. So I need 24 feet going back there. And then this is currently all covered up by my model. So I could do two things. I could switch to X-ray under View and Face Style X-ray, which I've set as a hotkey for the letter X on my computer. And since we're recording this, why don't I show you where you set those? Under Window and Preferences, this is where we changed the texture size the other day. Under Shortcuts, you have all of the different shortcuts that are on here. So if I typed in X-ray, then it comes up, that's the function, View, Face Style, X-ray. And then I will delete it. But the way you would do it is, it says Add Shortcut. I push the letter X and then click this little plus sign, and then I click OK. And now anytime I hit the letter X, it makes the model switch into X-ray mode, which is just really useful, really helpful so that you can see what's going on underneath. And when my computer's behaving, it just does it really fast. But that is not today. Okay, so we're going to come over here. We're going to come the full distance for this parking lot, just for starters, and fill in the rest of that rectangle.
Where did we get the information for the parking lot? Is it on the?
The 12-foot driveway requirement was on the form-based code. And then the 24 feet of backup space, I just know that that's what it is for the city of Mesa.
Okay.
You could find it in the code. There's a parking. Did I show you parking calcs the other day? I think I showed you, like, you go to the website. Let's see if my internet will even open up. I'll show you sort of what that looks like a second time. Or maybe everything will just sit here and not do anything. That could happen too. It's one of those days. Okay, so this was created. I've got my piece of parking lot there. I'll turn that into a group as well, into a component. And then I need 18 feet of parking itself. So this is the road to drive in. This is the amount of area you need to back up a car. And then this is the amount of area you need for parking. You can see here how parking gets really fills up a small infill site like this. So this is 18 feet right here, and it's 18 feet by 9 feet. Again, this is just what I know in the city of Mesa. It's different in Tempe. It's 23 feet of backup space and 18. And last week at our planning and zoning meeting, or 2 weeks ago, I asked the city to change the Mesa ones too, to make them smaller. Okay, that'll think for a little while. While that's thinking, let me see if I can, let's see if I can find this quickly just with Google. So this library, MuniCode, is an online system that a lot of the cities currently use. And we're going to go to zoning ordinance, chapter 11. We're going to go to the base zones. We're looking at residential districts. Now let me make sure that parking is even in here. I'll do a search. Their search engines are not that great, but sometimes you get a good parking area. All right, we'll let that think for a little while. It's gonna be like a cooking show because everything's so slow. We'll put that in the back burner, and maybe this will start going again. Okay, my parking space, 18 feet. by 9 feet. I'll make that into a component as well. And what we're going to do at this point is, so when I designed this the other day, do I still have that up? When I designed it for him, we were talking about having internal garages, which have to be 21 feet deep, which just barely fits on this. So why don't we, rather than having a parking lot, why don't we do this with garages? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a chunk out of this apartment complex all the way down. So I've got this currently as a block. Let me turn off X-ray so you can see it a little bit better. I'm going to double click on it to open up the component, block or component. And I know that I want 20 feet from this line to here, 21 feet. So I'm going to start over at this point. I'm using the pencil tool, which you get by hitting the letter L. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to type in 21 feet till I get to the circle of thought. Okay, well, that's deciding what's going on. Let's go back to here. Here's the all the parking area design for the city of Mesa. And if I scroll up here, I think this is where it was. It has all these, too far. Somewhere in here it says the size of the parking spaces. So yeah, I have 9 feet wide. There's something that's not in this graphic that says it in the code. But now that's thinking again, so we're going to go back to here. Okay. This is finished thinking, so I'm going to do 21 feet. And the 21 feet is right here. And then I'm going to draw a line up. I'm going to go 8 feet up, so you can get under there. And I'm going to draw the rest of the line 8 feet straight across the edge. You see now I have this piece and that piece. Now using the push-pull tool, I'm going to hit the letter P for the push-pull tool. Now I can click on this face and push it back 18 feet till it hits this other one. It says offset limited to 18, that's fine. I'm just going to do it a second time, and it'll go back the rest of the way. And then I'm going to do it a third time and take out that bottom space there. But that didn't quite do it right, so I'm going to go back and try it again, only this time I'm going to hit the space bar to get my arrow back. And now I'm going to delete that face right there. Well, no one can accuse me of going too quickly this time. Jeez. Okay, now I can select that face with the push-pull tool and push it to the back. And sometimes when you get the two faces to touch each other, like happened there, it'll delete them, which is what it's supposed to do, and sometimes it won't. So if it doesn't, you just have to do it yourself. Okay, so now I've got my, oh, I got a little bit of extra. So this was my 24 feet of backup space. And that's my, oh, I was off just a little bit. That's my 21 feet. So I accidentally cut this back a foot too far. So I'm gonna just double click on it. And then grab these two faces. So I'm gonna select this face and then hold down the shift key and select that face. Using the move tool, which is the letter M, I can grab these and move them forward 1 foot. Okay, so now I can get my, I can drive into here. I can get my pullouts for all of my parking. And then I see that this piece, it's not gonna work. There's not gonna be an easy way to park in there. Well, I guess we could just keep this going the rest of the way down. Why don't we do that? So we'll take a bite out of this building too. And I'm gonna start at this point and just drag it over here. You can see that little line. And then actually click right over there, go up 8 feet. And again, as I'm drawing up, I've hit the up arrow, so it's gonna go up or down no matter what I do. And then I can just pick a point somewhere else on the model that I know is already the height that I want it. So I can click on that, come back over here, grab that chunk right there, and then push this over. I'm gonna go back 18 feet because I'm just doing a little garage chunk right in there.
So when you click and drag, it'll automatically drag that height over. Like if you click and drag a point at a certain height.
Yeah, so the way I drew it is I started over here and I'm just hovering over the point, this endpoint outside active, and moving in that direction. You see it draws a little trace line that says I'm lined up orthogonally with it. And now I clicked, I just left clicked and started going up, and then I pushed the up arrow, and then I just go to another point that I know is the height that I want. I know this was 8 feet because we did that a couple minutes ago. And then I left click, and now I bring it over here to the front to finish off that square. Then I select it and hit the letter P for the push-pull tool and push that over 18 feet. Okay, and this is assuming, when I looked at the form-based code, I didn't see that there was a required space between the main accessory structure and the main structure and the accessory structure. But that's something to keep an eye out for as you're going through. So now I've got this piece of backup space. I want it to come all the way back into here. And so I'm gonna double click on it, grab that line right there and click M for the move tool. And then wait a long time.
While we're waiting, I have a quick question. When I did the push-pull tool, it created a solid block. out of the building, it created like a separate solid block, like it didn't push it in. Do you have any idea why that would be?
Out of this guy right here, the one in the back.
The one in the front.
So when you went through, it wasn't deleting it, it was just adding a block to it?
It didn't add a separate block, it just made it like the component a different color. Like it made a separate subsection of a different color.
So did it look something like this?
Yeah.
Okay. It could be that you didn't have the component open. Sometimes that,
Oh.
like if you don't double click on the component to edit, then you'll just be, it'll look like you're working on it, but then it's not actually interacting with the geometry in the component.
Okay.
I do that a lot. So that's my guess as to what happened. I'll be sitting there and I'm like, oh, and I want to do these windows, and I'll put all these windows in, and then I'll do all this stuff like this. And then I'll be like, oh, I wasn't in the component. Like they're all not in the component. So that's one of my favorite tricks. Okay, so this is bugging me that these are sitting right on the ground. So I'm going to select both of these floor planes, the driveway and the pull-out space, and I'm just going to move them up like 2 inches so they don't keep fuzzing on me. Okay, so now we've got that. We're going to put some, so we've got the yellow apartment and the blue one, but we need to finish coloring them. So I'm going to come over and double click on this side. So I have the component open, and you can tell because you get that little white ghosted box around it. I'm going to start a line right here. Just bring it down so that I've divided these into 2 different pieces. And then I'm going to use the letter G. Oh, wait, that's component. That's Photoshop. It's the letter B for circle that spins and spins and doesn't do anything. When you're working on a lot of these programs at once, like sometimes you'll have Illustrator, SketchUp, and Photoshop and AutoCAD all open at once, and all the hotkeys are different. And so it's okay to get frustrated, and don't feel bad if you're like, oh, I can't remember these hotkeys. They're all different. I wish they would have all coordinated at one point. Okay, so the letter B is what brings up your bucket tool, your paint bucket tool. And then I'm going to hold down, come on, B. The Alt button brings up your eyedropper. So now I can eyedrop that yellow, put it on there. I can eyedrop that blue, put it on there. So that was B to bring up the paint bucket tool. And then when B is open, if you hold down Alt, you get the eyedropper color. Okay, now I need something for this third guy. So I come over here and open my materials palette. I'm going to go to colors named. It's going to decide if it can do that or not. Maybe if I shrink, if Zoom is taking more video card than it used to.
Okay, so while we're waiting, okay, so do tags or layers, are they not as critical as they are in Photoshop and in like Illustrator?
Yes, they're not as critical.
Are they kind of like the AutoCAD where it's like they can be any order they want? You just kind of have to move them up 1 inch or so you can see them.
Yeah, stacking them isn't quite as important. In fact, often I think there's a command over here that lets you. There's something you can. Oh, you click name and it puts them alphabetically. And often I'll just do that so I can find them again. I'm pretty messy with my my SketchUp tags, and it's mostly to just like often I'll have a model where I want to be able to turn the roofs on and off so I can show clients what's inside of them. And so I have a roofs tag, and then I'll have a furniture tag, and then I just usually have a big mess of tags of other stuff that I've brought in and put in there and stuff. I don't clean up my tabs very often, and it makes my partner Bruce really mad, but it lets me work, because what I do, the way my thing works, I'll do it all in SketchUp and then I send it to him and he turns it into CAD drawings. So for him, it's really obnoxious because I've got this big mess of tags over there. But that's why I pay him so much money, so that I don't have to go through and, coordinate all my tags. I'm sure he'd love for me to organize it the way it is in AutoCAD, but
okay.
That's not how I do it.
So so you said that you put the roof on a separate tag. Do you just like click on the top part and then just move it?
Yeah, I'm gonna open up a model that's organized that way, and I'll show you that in just a minute when that gets open.
Okay. It's just
I'll show you.
My SketchUp is freezing.
Oh, so is mine. They're buds. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to double click on maybe everyone's SketchUp is freezing. Maybe with the new 2020, it has to call home through the internet every once in a while. And if the internet is bogged down by tons of video content, this is my conspiracy theory happening in real time. Maybe that's what's slowing it down. Okay, I'm gonna
get the conspiracy theory recorded.
Yeah, exactly. China's listening to it through the glitch that Zoom has. I'm gonna pick a color for this back part of the apartments, and I'm gonna pick rojo, and we'll put the rojo right here. Put it in all four sides, and then I need to get this little part blue. Oh, I need to get that part red as well. And I'm gonna hit Alt. I've still got the paint bucket tool open, so I can click on the blue of this and put the blue right there. And it gives you have like 20 seconds and then it has to think again. Yep, I'm sure that's conspiracy theory.
I find that relatable.
Maybe it's just today. Maybe it didn't want to work today.
Fingers crossed. It's probably the Illuminati. They're like, ha, ha, ha.
Well, then you should just go talk to Beyonce about it.
Oh no, it's not responding.
My kids had this joke the other day. What's the biggest star in the universe? And I was like, oh, it's that B2G993 whatever thing. Like, no, it's Beyonce.
Your kids are right.
I know. And then I'm like, you're right. I was like trying to show how nerdy I was, and I was wrong. The biggest star in the universe is Beyonce. And I never met her. Okay. I've gotten under there. You see, I had to draw the line.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Along here and along here.
Then don't you still have to dye underneath
the
red building?
Yeah, and I've got to get it under there too. So I'll do that there. Eyedropper here. Drop that under there. And now I think
How did you get the eyedropper again? Alt?
Alt. So when you have the bucket tool selected, then the eyedropper is Alt.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now we have got our massing model showing these different pieces. Okay, so when I'm doing what Bruce wants me to do, I put all of the dimensions on a different tag. So I'll do it the right way, and then you can decide whether or not you're going to do it the right way or not. When I don't do it the right way, I send the model to Bruce, and he calls me usually within 5 minutes and says, why didn't you put the dimensions on a different layer? And I'll say, oh, I forgot to do that. And then he usually says a few choice words, and then he does it anyway. So that's why I don't do it. No repercussions.
You don't just tell him, I just really needed to hear your voice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Bruce, I just wanted you to call me. I'm feeling lonely here in quarantine. Okay, so we're going to create a tag by pushing this little plus sign. The tag is going to be called dims. If you're really creative, you could call it dims and notes. If you're really feeling generous. And then in order to be the tag that I'm working on, I click the little pencil onto that tag. Now, the issue is I already have 2 tags that are not on that right layer. So I'm going to select the 2 of them, click on this one, and then shift and click on that one. And under entity info, make sure that that's open. I'm going to change the tag from building to dims and notes. And now that's moved to the dims and notes tab. And then I rarely believe SketchUp when it tells me that, so I'll often wait patiently while it decides what it's going to do. And then I will turn off the dims and notes tabs just quickly to see that they actually moved to the right tag. I still don't think tag's the right word for this. Okay, so in order to turn them off, you cannot turn off the current tag. And if you try doing that, it'll say you cannot hide the current tag. So I'm gonna move the pencil up to a different tag, and then I can turn off with this eyeball, I can turn this on and off. You can see now that they are turning off. So I believe it. And now I will switch my pencil back to the dims and notes. And then these are the text labels over here. So I'm going to click on that one. And let's see, we were getting data the other day on it. I think we might have to have the component open to get that. But opening a component is something that takes it a minute to think about. So while it's doing that, let me show you this model. And you'll be able to see that, yes, indeed, I've made a mess of all the tags. There's a little bit of logic to them. Like roofs, for example, I can turn off the roofs just like that. See how handy that is? I can just be like, oh, here's your roofs. And then I'll say, oh, how big is the living room? And I'll pop it up like that. And then I have my dims right here, where I've put all of the, it's kind of self-explanatory. I've put all the dims in because this particular client is super picky about how far every single thing is from every single other thing. I think it makes him feel powerful. He can say, wait a minute, how far is, like he'll look through the entire thing and he'll find one that I haven't dimensioned. And he'll say, wait a minute, how far is the couch from the wall? And then I'll put it on there, and he feels like he's ordered me to do something. I guess it makes him feel like he's getting his money's worth out of it. Those are the psychological things they don't teach you in school. So that's how I do it. Let's see if my other thing is done thinking. Okay, so I'm going to try doing the text tag again. Yeah, so if my component is open and I click on it, it will tell me the square footage of that face. If my component is closed, then I have to put that in on its own. So I'm going to do this with the component open. And then it says 720 square feet. I put yes, and then just click off of it like that. So now I have 207 square foot upper floors and a 900 square foot upper floor. And if we were to get into more detail, this is actually going to be garage space, but somewhere there's got to be a staircase that gets you up there. We won't get into that detail. And this guy back here will have either a two-car garage and a little bit of stuff, or a single-car garage and sort of a downstairs living space and an upstairs living space. And this is the one that's a 1.5 story, which we still don't know exactly what that means. So I would have to call up Jennifer at the City of Mesa and say, has anyone ever defined this before? What's 1.5 stories? And she would probably say no, because so few projects have come through with form-based code. And then we'll have a conversation about how to define it. So I need to give a square footage on this guy. So I'm going to double click on him and go to my text and pull off of that. And now we have a huge apartment there in the back. In fact, it's so big. I know from the code that we're allowed 6 separate apartments on a lot under this form-based code. So I would probably cut this in half and make 2 apartments out of it in the end. And then I have to give one of those a color like salmon. And then I would delete that text there, and I would do 2 new ones. 720, oops, and 720. Okay. Now we're getting where we want. I'm going to turn off my location snapshot and my Maricopa map for a little bit, just to speed the things up a little bit. Maybe this will help. Okay, so we've got the basic massing model maximized right here. So at this point, what I would usually do is I would save it. And then this is maybe a best practices thing. I do a massing model and then I don't touch it anymore. So I saved it, so this is currently saved. And now I'm gonna do a save as, and I'm gonna call it, this was massing model 3, I'm gonna call it massing model 4. And then I'm never gonna mess with that number 3. I'm not gonna edit that one at all. I'm just gonna edit this number 4.
How did you get the little dimensions again?
As soon as this scrolly ball is over, I'll show you. Okay, so I double click on a face, right? Open the component, and then it's this little text box over here.
Okay.
And then you click on the face that you want, and if your component is open, it will tell you the square footage of that face. Okay.
Okay.
So if I pick the top faces, which is what I did originally, it's telling you how much square footage that apartment has. Which is helpful because then you know what things cost per square foot basically to do an apartment, and you can tell what it's going to rent for. If I do it on the side, this is on the front facade, it's 688 square feet. This would be useful for knowing, oh, if we're going to put this much stucco on it, stucco is $2 a square foot, so this is going to cost, $1,300 and whatever. Like, this will help you know. That's a more architectural thing, I guess. how much different things are going to cost for different materials. Okay. So let me show you now. When we were doing, remember when we first started doing SketchUp, we were doing the guy with the little house, and you could make a bunch of copies of him. You can do that in a component as well. So I'm going to open the component right here and just give them an idea of a window design. So the way I'm going to do this is, I know that my floor is going to be about 1 foot deep. So I'm going to come 1 foot up from there. And I'm going to go, I'm not going to go all the way to the end. It's 21 feet to the end. I'll just go 20 feet. And I'm going to do a long, skinny window. And I'm going to keep it, I'll just go 10 feet high with it. And then we'll make it 2 feet wide. Come down like that. So I've got the window I want. And these first 2 lines I drew were just guides to get me over there. So I'm going to delete those. Now I want this whole window. So I double click on it so I get the window and its outline pieces. I'm going to click M for the move tool. And then as I start moving, I'm going to hit Control. So I get that little plus. And then I can come all the way out to here. It's 37 feet, but I don't want to go all the way to the end. So I'm going to type in 36 feet. And then I'm going to type divide by 8, and it'll give me evenly spaced windows going all the way across there. And then I can, using the push-pull tool, I can push them each in, I don't know, maybe 4 inches. And I would do that on the first one, but I don't want to type push-pull, push-pull, push-pull a whole bunch of times. If I was clever, so, well, I won't be clever yet. I could just click on this one, and then it starts the push-pull going, and if I go to this face, it'll match that face with the push-pull tool. So this will speed it up rather than typing 4 inches every time. I can just click on it, match to that face, click on it, match to that face. That makes sense what I'm doing? Okay. The clever way to do it would be to grab this entire face. This is as we start getting to advanced SketchUp. I grab that whole face right there, all of them, all the geometry. I'm going to move the whole thing in 4 inches. And then I'm just going to select this piece of the face and use the push-pull tool and pull it out 4 inches. So that's just a faster way of getting that same, doing that same thing. Rather than doing each of the individual windows, I just move the whole face out 4 spaces. Okay. Then this is no longer the massing model. This is as we start trying to look a little bit more realistic. So here's where I might go to a different, let's see, what do we want to put on this? We could show a different pattern on it. That's cinder block. Here, let me use that as an example. So I went to the brick cladding and siding thing, and I clicked cinder block, and I clicked on that face. But you'll see that the cinder block is way too small. And so let me show you how to fix that in a component. It's saying the cinder block is 1'6" by 8 inches, which is what it should be. I don't know why it came in so small. But you can come here under materials and edit and just change these. We could try like 4 feet. It starts to look a little bit better. But also cinder blocks, you know, they're 8 inches by 16 inches wide, wide block you see all over here in the valley. The scale is not quite right. So I'm going to click this little lock-unlock aspect ratio thing here to unlock it. And now I can say, well, I want it to be, let's try 2 feet high. That doesn't look right either. Let's try 4. Okay, so it looks like it wants to be more of a 4x4 grid using the cinder block. And then I'm going to just check it. I know that these are 8 inches high. So that looks about right. That was a guess that this texture, if this texture that came in, and this texture is just an image, it's just a JPEG image. We'll get more onto how to manipulate these next week, but it happens, SketchUp set it up so that if it's on a 4x4 grid, it will be the correct color for cinder block. So now that I've got that corrected, I can re-link the aspect ratio. And now if I click B, I can go and put cinder block everywhere on here that cinder block would go. And to speed things up, I'm just going to click everything, and then I'll cinder block it. And then I'm going to go back in for these windows with a different color. So I'm going to go back to select, and I'll go to glass and mirrors. And I'll just try one of these, see if these look good as windows. Yeah, that kind of gives the window look. I'm not showing the inside of the building yet. I'm just dropping that on there. And this is a pretty dismal thing. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the cinder block. I'm going to edit it. And you can change the color by selecting things here on the color wheel. So we could make all sorts of different colors, as if we're painting cinder block. But then this is how you start to give your clients a more realistic look. And the colorize tool, I think, usually makes it work a little bit better if you're editing the colors. Kind of cleans it up a little bit. So I click colorize right in here. I don't actually like that particular color. So maybe we go with that for right now. Okay. That is the gist of that. Our time is up. I apologize for the slowness of today's lecture. Monday, we'll talk about how to add cars and trees and other things to gussy this up a little bit more. And then hopefully we can get through that, and then I'll show you how to start bringing your site, your CAD drawing into SketchUp and working on it like that. Any other questions for right now? This is recorded, or at least I told it to record. I will upload that to YouTube if you want to go over it.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be good to your dogs today.
Okay, I'll be good in my
real life.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.